A 34-year-old woman from Ohio was charged with abusing a corpse after having a miscarriage. So look, according to the reports, the woman said, "I was 21 weeks and 5 days pregnant when I noticed an uncomfortable fluid leaking from me. And I went to my OBGYN and she told me that there was no chance of my baby being born alive and that my pregnancy was non-viable. And I was transported to the hospital where I kept asking doctors to check my vitals and was everything all right with me. And they kept telling me they're still waiting. They're still waiting. And after waiting almost 8 hours, I decided to leave. They wouldn't even come in the room and check on me." The hospital report states the 34-year-old woman understood her risk complications, including hemorrhage, sepsis, or death, and she still left disregarding medical advice. The woman said, "I went back to the hospital the next day and waited 11 hours. They told me they was going to induce my labor and never did. So I opted out and I went back home. I felt frustrated. I felt ignored." Upon arriving at the hospital a third time, while in the middle of having a miscarriage, the woman said, "A nurse put her hand on me and told me everything was going to be okay." Meanwhile, that same nurse called the police and said, "I didn't want to look at my baby. And I said that I didn't want my baby. And that wasn't true. What I said was I didn't want to look. I would never say I don't want my baby. I don't even talk like that. It just makes me angry that somebody would put those type of words in my mouth to make me seem like a bad person." Police arrested the woman days later and charged her with abusing a corpse, but an Ohio grand jury declined to pursue the charges against her and said she did not violate any criminal statutes. Listen, we should start holding people accountable for calling the police and just making up stories. If that woman says she didn't want to look, she didn't have to look. That don't make her a bad person, and it definitely don't make her a criminal. Everybody don't handle traumatic situations the same way. I know people who go to funerals and don't walk up to the casket to view their loved one. Some people just can't handle that. You mad at this woman for not looking at her baby. Why you not mad at your coworkers who had her sitting in the hospital for over 8 hours and not once did they go to check on her? Even when she showed up the next day, she waited for 11 hours and they didn't check up on her. Why you more mad at her than your coworkers? If you're going to call the police and tell them a story, make sure you include you and your coworkers in that story. This 34-year-old woman was a victim, and I'm glad the courts of Ohio seen it that way.